She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable. Hey, I'm an but at least I tip. This dame probably virtue signals on the toilet. But that's not the point here. While everybody else was trying to figure out how to survive as the government told us that breathing in public could kill us, Sunny was lolling around in her big house clicking on pictures of arugula while mixing Cocoa Puffs into her Haagen-Dazs. Oh, the oppression. I wonder if she wiped down the groceries herself or had her maid do.
Everyone missed the real story, except Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld. While others bought into Sunny Hostin's polished persona, Rogan dropped truth bombs and Gutfeld laced them with laughs. Together, they ripped the curtain down on her TV image, exposing a side no one saw coming. One moment she's confidently tossing hot takes on The View. The next, she's scrambling like someone flipped the teleprompter. What did they reveal? Let's just say, Sunny's once smooth forecast just turned very, very stormy.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies infested hen house.
and at the same time, it seemed like the most interesting part was their audience seemed to be on my side.
It's almost impressive. Sunny Hostin has a knack for delivering the most off-base take in any situation, like she's competing in some bizarre Olympics of wrong. If clueless confidence were a currency, she'd be Forbes Woman of the Year. In a world overflowing with experts, analysts, and people capable of basic logic, Sunny somehow manages to shout the loudest while making the least sense. That's where Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld come in. After watching her latest greatest hits of televised nonsense, they didn't just roll their eyes. They called it out loud and clear. Enough was enough.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from
Rogan, who's interviewed everyone from neuroscientists to flat earthers without exploding from the IQ whiplash, seemed baffled that someone could make being wrong a full-time TV job. Sunny Hostin, with her talent for delivering moral absolutes like stone tablets from a mountaintop, talks as if she's addressing the unwashed masses. Enter Greg Gutfeld, who practically salivated at the chance to swan dive into the fiery volcano of her hypocrisy, exposing her contradictions with the kind of glee only he could deliver. Intro 4. Welcome to the Sunny Hostin Time Warp, a parallel universe where interrupting others while claiming to be silenced is branded as activism. In this bizarre realm, personal responsibility equals oppression, and smugness is treated like a sacred virtue. Disagree with her? You're instantly labeled a bigot, a misogynist, or a secret agent of big hatred. Logic takes a backseat while her daily mission seems to be transforming every panel discussion into a dramatic performance of self-righteous indignation, part lecture, part interpretive rage dance.
Saw you on The View.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's been overwhelming my past couple days.
Yeah, is that annoying?
No.
No?
No, I mean, it's just, when I was on there, I really had no idea how it was going to land with the audience. So I just went in there, did my thing. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know who Sunny Hostin was. I actually still really don't know. So I wasn't expecting necessarily for her to kind of try to ambush me in that way and attack my character.
Joe Rogan called it exactly what it is: weaponized narcissism wrapped in woke commentary. Sunny Hostin, live on national TV, once tried to rebrand middle-class Americans as undercover oppressors. She treats eating at Applebee's like it's some sort of hate crime and even floated the idea that rural voters should pass a pronunciation test for bourgeoisie. Rogan didn't have to do much. He simply held up a mirror, and Sunny recoiled like it was a subpoena delivered with a side of truth.
She took the news. Roll it.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact.
Greg Gutfeld didn't just bring a mirror. He showed up with a megaphone, a spotlight, and a sarcasm-powered bulldozer. Watching him unravel Sunny Hostin's contradictions was like peeling an onion, only to discover it's made entirely of recycled Twitter threads and performative outrage. Her political takes have all the depth of a toddler explaining taxes. Loud, confused, and wildly off base. Gutfeld didn't even need to roast her. She practically lit herself on fire and sprinted into a wind tunnel of truth. One of Sunny's most unintentionally hilarious moves, besides labeling her own co-hosts dangerous extremists for suggesting common sense, was anointing herself a voice for the voiceless, while monopolizing airtime on one of daytime TV's most mainstream platforms. Because, of course, it's so hard to get your views heard when you're paid to shout them 5 days a week before lunch. Rogan, in one of his classic slow-burn takedowns, didn't bother with theatrics. He just shook his head like a disappointed dad watching his kid try to microwave aluminum. All he had to do was point out the absurdity. Someone living in a coastal mansion, flying private, and still managing to cosplay as oppressed. If victimhood were a timeshare, Sunny would be platinum tier, with beachfront guilt access.
I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune. For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
Greg Gutfeld, on the other hand, delivered a full surgical dissection of Sunny Hostin's logic, if you can call it that. With painful precision, he laid out her greatest hits of unintentional comedy, like the time she insisted that certain opinions shouldn't be platformed, while using her own platform to shout exactly that into the void. That's like campaigning against junk food with a cheeseburger in each hand. Gutfeld didn't pull punches. He gave her the full roast treatment, brisket style. Slow, steady, and sizzling, Sunny's worldview, such as it is, operates like a broken GPS that keeps rerouting straight into the cliffs of insanity. Everything's a crisis, everyone's a villain, and somehow, she's always the solution. Never mind that she once argued math itself was problematic because it didn't reflect lived experiences. Yes, she actually tried to cancel arithmetic. Rogan nearly choked laughing when reminded of that gem. His dry response? If feelings are math now, then 2 + 2 = my truth, and gravity owes us all an apology. His signature takedown style isn't about yelling. It's the quiet devastation of repeating her own points back slowly, like explaining quantum physics to a turtle. It lands harder than any shoutfest. Meanwhile, Gutfeld ran wild with Sunny's uncanny talent for turning any cultural discussion into a pretzel of contradictions. She could take a simple topic like school lunches and somehow link it to systemic oppression. Greg described it best. Watching her attempt to make sense of an issue is like watching someone try to defuse a bomb using a blender. Chaotic, loud, and almost guaranteed to end with someone in tears.
With that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in, and they always bring on a token conservative woman and they yell over her and silence her, and they did that with Meghan McCain, and they did that with what is that other blonde woman from Survivor? Do you remember her, Jamie? She was always yelling. I mean, it's a bizarre.
Then there's the classic Sunny Hostin humble brag, lecturing America about inequality while casually name-dropping her vacation home and Ivy League credentials. She insists she's just like us, all while sipping custom oat milk lattes and tweeting about oppression from a yacht. Greg Gutfeld didn't miss a beat. He turned this walking contradiction into a full-blown Broadway satire, even titling it The Privileged Prophet, a sunny tale. Asterisk, and of course, her crowning achievement, claiming moral superiority in a group that includes Joy Behar. That's like bragging about being the designated driver at a demolition derby. Rogan had his own metaphor, comparing Sunny to a fortune cookie rewritten by Tumblr, vague, self-righteous, and pathologically allergic to nuance. But Gutfeld wasn't done. He called out the irony of Hostin decrying misinformation, while often functioning as a walking Wikipedia of unverified outrage. She's the type to skim a headline, misremember it, and then shout it as sacred truth for a week. While scolding others for not doing the research, Greg likened it to showing up to a symphony with a kazoo and insisting you're the first-chair violinist. And when Sunny claimed that anyone who disagrees with her simply doesn't understand the lived Black experience, Rogan, who's interviewed more Black intellectuals than she's name-dropped, just blinked. The unearned moral high ground was so elevated, NASA could track it from space.
That means it's time for...
Living your life and you're feeling low. You don't know what is true. You don't know what's true. So you quick flip through the channels to watch Sunny on The View. Oh my God, the stuff she says is dumb. Where the hell they get this woman from? She's a host who's always crass and lame, with lots of nonsense to proclaim. If you want a show where people know the host is stupider than you, then set your DVR to watch Sunny Hostin on The View.
Nicely done, G.
Greg Gutfeld summed it up perfectly. Sunny Hostin doesn't want equality. She wants exemption. Exemption from criticism, from debate, and from consequences. She wants to play a game where she writes the rules, changes them mid-play, and then screams racist if anyone dares to notice. It's like playing Monopoly with a toddler who eats the money and cries when you ask for rent. Sunny treats every discussion like a courtroom where she's the judge, jury, and the only person allowed to speak. Rogan nailed it when he said debating her is like trying to teach a cat to juggle. Chaotic, pointless, and you'll probably end up scratched. Then there's the victim cosplay, a full red carpet production of emotional theatrics anytime she gets pushed back. Every disagreement becomes an attack. Every question is violence, and every sarcastic jab is suddenly a crisis. Gutfeld roasted that so thoroughly it needed marshmallows, calling her the human version of a fire alarm that only goes off when someone uses logic. Rogan, with his trademark deadpan delivery, pointed out that in Sunny's world, podcasts would be banned, books would come with sensitivity footnotes, and dinner conversations would require a fact-checker and a therapist. In Sunny's world, he said, intellectual diversity is dangerous, but echo chambers are safe spaces. And it's not just politics. Sunny's hot takes extend to science, too. This is the same woman who once suggested biology needed rethinking because facts didn't consider people's feelings. Gutfeld had a field day, calling it the academic equivalent of eating crayons and blaming the menu.
It's a very strange show, but it's fun to watch. It's just fun to watch them.
It's good entertainment.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
Well, they're just, it's interesting because I think Sunny is very intelligent, but she's ideologically captured.
Right.
That's sort of, I think the other ones, there's a couple of the other ones, don't have to name any names, who are just very dull-minded. But I think Sunny's not one of them. I think she's smart but captured.
Sure, I think she came into it with an agenda.
Of course. They do everything with an agenda.
Yeah.
In what universe does someone believe you can challenge science by tweeting about feelings? Sunny Hostin does. And if you dare ask for a source, she'll accuse you of tone policing while setting your credibility ablaze. Greg Gutfeld joked her next book should be titled Gaslight, the memoir complete with a foreword written entirely in all caps. Joe Rogan's final roast came with a brutal truth. Sunny isn't having conversations. She's conducting ideological hostage negotiations. Disagree, and you're evil. Question her, and you're canceled. Laugh, and suddenly you're a threat to democracy. It's an intellectual environment so sterile, even bacteria would file a complaint. Sunny's television legacy won't be remembered for eloquence or insight, but for the sheer volume of unintentional comedy she produced while trying to sound profound. Rogan and Gutfeld merely held up a mirror, and what they revealed was that the emperor had no clothes, just layers of righteous indignation poorly hiding the hypocrisy underneath. They didn't just dismantle Sunny Hostin, they audited her worldview, bounced the checks of her logic, repossessed her moral high ground, and left behind a heap of contradictions and sound bites. And they did it all with a smirk, because sometimes the only way to handle absurdity is to mock it into submission. For those keeping score, that's 2 podcast mics, 1 Fox News coffee mug, 0 rebuttals, and a sunny disposition completely turned to shade.
Oh, I'm gonna milk this till the end of time. You're right. Anytime she says something stupid, I'm gonna go, slave owner! Exactly, because if she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them? And it is funny. She is so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she was.
Ideological Scaffolding Point by Shaky Point. When someone builds their credibility on outrage and buzzwords, it doesn't take much. A light breeze of common sense can topple the whole tower. Sunny Hostin's arguments don't collapse under pressure. They evaporate under scrutiny. Rogan and Gutfeld didn't need venom or volume. They wielded something far more dangerous: clarity. And in Sunny's universe, where confusion reigns supreme, truth isn't just inconvenient, it's lethal.